What's up, everybody? So we're back on the shop with another Shop Talk Tuesday, and in this Shop Talk Tuesday we're going to be recapping my Blade Show Atlanta 2023 experience. Now I'm going to try and keep this video as simple and short as possible because I know it's primarily me just talking and y'all are just hanging out with me. But think of it as a conversation. Think of it as I'm just chatting with you. Don't try and worry about any of the other stuff. I know I'm not making a knife, but the recap is always one of the big parts because it is my takeaway as a knife maker and YouTuber going to this show, what my takeaways were, what I would suggest that you do whenever you go to a show, things like that. So it's good information. Now, for one, takeaways, there were a lot of makers there that make tools for knife makers. A lot of them. There are so many 2x72s that it is absolutely crazy. And I think that that's really cool because it gives you a lot of options within that particular market. Now, each one of them have their own little things, but they pretty much all do the same stuff because nowadays the common 2x72 has a very similar motor, very similar VFD. They use 2x72 belts. Most of the wheels are pretty similar. And on top of that, pretty much all of them flip horizontal. Now they have different things, different size arms and tubing and stuff like that, and different type of racks that they sit on. But like I said, they're all pretty similar because once you find out something that works, you just kind of replicate and put your own twist on that thing that works. So you see quite a bit of that with the 2x72s. And of course, every single one of them are better or cooler and more functional than my belt-driven non-VFD having 2x72 that I have. So I would appreciate any of those 2x72s. But that kind of gets me to the next thing. The prices on these things are absolutely expensive. They don't make a cheap 2x72. Now, there are inexpensive ones that you can get, or you could do the house-made one by Brian House. You could do that one and build it yourself, and that is a great way to have an entry-level 2x72 that does a lot of the stuff that the other more expensive ones do. Typically the way it works is you buy a 1x30, you work on that for a little bit, then you make your own 2x72. He gives you the pieces and the, you know, patterns and all the stuff to make that, which is really cool. So before we didn't have that, we just had to figure it out. He figured it out for us, lets us make it. And then typically the next step after that is getting one of those Ameribraid broadbacks or any of those cool grinders that you see like that. If you're crazy and you want to spend a lot of money for something that lasts a really long time, you get a Burger King. But it's one of those deals where you have the different levels that you can get nowadays. Back whenever I was getting into this, there wasn't a ton of 2x72s. Now you have plenty of options. I think that's really cool, and you can find one that really fits your budget, which is really awesome. One of the things that I will say is your 2x72 is your workhorse in your shop. Doesn't matter whether you're primarily focusing on forging knives or not. It doesn't matter. At some point, you're going to have to get onto a grinder and do some stock removal. It is just the way it works. Your 2x72 will pay itself off faster than anything. It is 100% one of those machines that you get your money back out of it because of how efficient that will make you as a knife maker. It is crazy. My 2x72 has paid for itself multiple times over. And I bought them whenever you could get something as simple as that for like $2,500. Nowadays, you spend $2,500, you're going to get a lot of stuff with your 2x72 and a VFD and all kinds of stuff. But it's paid for itself times 5. It's amazing. Now, other than things like that, one of the things that I like going to see at these different shows, other than the vendors that are there with tools, you know, 'cause you do get to see some different heat treat ovens and have them explain to you why they do certain things, and that is really cool. I'm not in the budget area for a heat treat oven yet. I've got other things in my shop that I need to upgrade before I get to that point. that I need a heat treat oven, my forge can heat treat all of the steels that I use right now. My forge and my oils, that's all I need. I don't plan on getting into stainless for a while, and I don't plan on really getting into the whole batch knife things just yet. I will get into that, but I can still do a lot of that with my forge and my oils. So that's not something that I need to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on. I saw some of them that were like $11,000. I don't need to do that right now. I've got a drill press that I've got to upgrade. I've got certain things in my shops that I need to do, shelving, toolboxes, all that stuff. I need to get those things first before I go doing any of that. And that's one of the things that I would suggest, that you kind of step your tools up when it's necessary, not just because. Whenever you go to these shows, you can get kind of overwhelmed by the prices of everything. You can go, okay, so I kind of want to get into knife making. I'm going to go to this show and just look around. And you go and you see the grinders that they have, and you go, okay, well, I've got a budget $3,000 for a grinder. And you go and see the heat treating ovens, and those guys tell you about why it's really beneficial to have a heat treating oven. And you go, okay, I've got a $4,500 for a heat treat oven. Now you're at $7,500, $8,000. And all you've looked at is a 2x72 and a heat treat oven. And you still got to get drill press, porta bandsaw, belts. You still got to get oils. You got to get vices. You got to get steel. You got to get all that stuff. And you're looking at it going, damn, it's going to cost me $10,000 to get into knife making. Or you get a knife or a grinder 2x72 that you make yourself with the Bryan House setup, the House Made USA. You get that. You look at a YouTube video and make your own forge. You get yourself some quenching oils, and even Parks 50 and AAA, they're not expensive oils. You can get those and just skip the whole peanut oil or canola oil or any of that stuff and go straight to good oils. You can build a forge for like $100. And then you get your oils. You get your 2x72 that you make yourself. You get a simple drill press from Harbor Freight. You get your bandsaw from Harbor Freight. You get those things, and your entry level cost is actually really inexpensive. The downside to going to some of the shows is you see all the prices on things and you go, wow, I just can't do that, and then you just don't do it. Or you spend $10,000 and realize knife making is not for you. So sometimes that's the downside to going to these shows. Now back to the upsides with the shows. Going around and looking at all the different knife makers, all of their knives that they do, and all the cool things that you can see that you didn't think about doing is really cool. Some of the ergonomics on their handles, some of the way that they do their profiling and faceting on their handles, some of the integral bolsters that they do, and what tools they use to get to that particular style of bolster. Some of them use bearings, small wheel attachments, waterfall platens. They'll tell you the benefits to each thing, and the cool thing is these knife makers will tell you exactly how they did that thing on that knife. They're not going to hide it from you. They're not going to go, that's the secret sauce that you can't have. They're going to go, oh, you want to know about it? Cool. So you're going to take and you're going to do this step, this step, this step, this step, this step, this step, and this step. And it's going to be absolutely awesome. That's one of the best things about these shows, is being able to talk to all these fellow knife makers. And they have people that are just getting into knife making, and then the crazy experts that are doing work that'll just blow your mind. You know, so this guy right here, this youngin that has this little black ironworks, little black ironworks, this guy that does this, and this is his little brand. He's 12, and he had a table at Blade Show, Atlanta. 12 years old, just doing his thing, man. It's absolutely awesome. But you have those beginners all the way up to the crazy experts that are like the people that do that thing within their field, and they're the only ones, and people are trying to get to that point. Those people are all there, and you have access to all of them, and they will all just sit there and chat with you about anything. It's really, really cool, and I suggest that people do it and have a blast with it, get themselves out there, talk to people, pick up their knives. They will let you pick up any knife that is there typically you want to ask, but most of the times they don't even let you ask. They just go, hey, pick that up. Pick it up. Put it in your hand. Put it in your hand. They'll pick it up and put it in your hand because they want you to hold it. They want you to feel it. They want to talk to you about it. It's really, really, really cool. But I always want people to be able to go into these shows and do the conversations and talk to the vendors. Even if something just looks like it's crazy out of your budget, it doesn't make any sense, still have the conversation with that vendor that makes that tool, because at some point in your knife making career, you might want to buy one. And if you just never talk to them, you don't know why it's beneficial, why you want to get to that point. Because again, as we're doing this knife making career, we're upgrading our tools. We're getting 1x30, built 2x72, crazy 2x72 that does everything and makes your life easier because it's got sharpening attachments and all that. Same thing, drill press, small bench drill press, up to a bigger drill press, up to a milling machine. Those things end up happening to make your life easier as a knife maker and make you more efficient. So you slowly work your way up. You build a forge. Don't just go straight into a heat treating oven unless you plan on only making stainless steel the entire time you're making knives. If you're only ever going to do stainless steel and you're only ever going to do stock removal, maybe a heat treating oven's for you. But if you're not going to do that right off the bat because you're kind of just getting into this whole entire thing, make yourself a forge for cheap. Try and get yourself into this whole entire thing under $1,500 and you'll be good to go. Now, other recaps from Blade Show. I would say seeing some of the smaller things that they do are kind of important. So going to the pops vendors, going to the vendors that have the different handle materials and pin materials and little cool things that, like, whenever I got the bone for that fantasy build, if I would have never went to Blade Show, I wouldn't even have known that that existed, that bone was a thing that you could use for a handle. That knife would not have looked anywhere near as cool as it did if I wouldn't have went to a Blade Show and saw that that was a material that's available to make knives. Holy crap, I don't even think I would have designed that knife that way. It'd have been a completely different knife. I did almost the whole entire thing around that piece of bone. So going there and looking at the different handle materials, looking at the different pin materials, looking at the different liners, looking at the different inlays, looking at all these cool materials that you can use to make knives and make sheaths and, you know, stingray skin and like all the different leathers and dyes and glues and adhesives and clamps. You're not going to be able to see those things in person unless you go to either like Pop's Knife Supply, the actual store, or you go to one of these Blade shows and you pick the stuff up and you check it out. I highly suggest that you do that. So you go to the vendors. I would suggest you do it in this order right here. You go to the knife makers, you check out all of their knives, hold them, talk to them about them, do all that stuff, and then go to the material supply people, your pins, handle material, all that stuff, glues, adhesives, your abrasives. I got a ton of belts. Got a lot of belts, all from that show. And I suggest that you go and you actually get those things, whatever you want to do, or just talk about them. If you're going to be there for more than one day, talk, do all that stuff, get an idea of what you're going to get, and then go talk to the vendors that have the tools and the machinery and do all that. Because sometimes, again, you go there and you talk to them about all those machines and you're looking at $10,000, $11,000 worth of crap, and you're going, I say crap, awesome stuff, but you go and you look at $10,000, $11,000 worth of stuff and you go, well, screw this, I'm not making knives, and you just leave. So don't do that. Save the sticker shock for like last. But that's pretty much what I would suggest. And if you would, you know, go ahead and watch day 1, 2, and 3 if you haven't yet. I talk about in each day the stuff that I got while I was there. You know, I've got a whole bunch of stuff here. I've got hammers, I've got tongs, I've got materials, handle materials, of course, a bunch of belts and things like that. I talk about all that in those videos, so make sure you go hit them up and watch them. Guys, If you have any questions about Blade Show or any of the stuff that you would like to talk about, leave them in the comment section down below or message me on Instagram, send me an email, Facebook, whatever you want to do. I can pretty much help you with any questions that you might have had about the videos or about this recap. Plus, guys, I just want to thank everyone that walked up and said what's up while they were there. I'm happy that a lot of y'all liked the knives, and you know, anytime that I can bring them with me and let y'all hold them so y'all can see them in person and actually see the size scale of them, what they look like, all that type of stuff, is really cool. So just make sure whenever I do the next Blade shows that you come up, look for me, message me. You can message me, like I said, Facebook, Instagram, on one of the videos. I see all that stuff. Make sure you message me and I will link up with you. We'll talk, chat, have some fun. Guys, that's the end of this video. Okay? Y'all have an amazing day. Y'all stay safe out there, and I'll catch y'all next time.